Hey all, welcome back to the Shreve Crump and Low YouTube channel. My name is Jack Tyler.
I'm Christopher Weiss.
And we are here today to answer your questions. So we figured we'd mix it up, do something a little bit different. So we actually reached out to you and got your questions, the things that you want to know about watches, all across the gamut of different topics. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into your questions and answer them off the cuff. All right, so our first question is, what is the difference between a quartz, a manual, and an automatic watch?
Yeah, that's a great question. So watch movements, the guts inside a watch that make it work. Basically the engine for a car, the movement for a watch.
The heartbeat, if you will.
The heartbeat, the tick-tock, if you will. So the movement of a watch historically was a mechanical movement, right? Springs and gears. You wind up a spring, it stores mechanical energy. That spring little by little unwinds. It goes through a gear chain, to a balance wheel, to a blah, 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 and that's how a watch works. Then technology sort of caught up and we realized we could do these things electronically. We could, store energy in a battery. And we could count vibrations of a teeny tiny quartz crystal and use that to regulate a watch. So a quartz watch is going to be a watch where the movement uses a battery to generate power, a quartz crystal that is vibrated, and a little chip that's measuring the number of vibrations, and that's telling you when the watch needs to have its seconds hand tick, tick, tick.
Right. And what's a good way to be able to tell the difference between the quartz and automatic movement?
I'd say if that seconds hand is doing sharp ticks versus a nice sweep, that's a quartz watch.
Okay.
Until you get into jumping seconds mechanisms.
Right.
And beat seconds.
Fair enough.
And people wanting to imitate that look, yeah.
Right.
Ooh, it gets tough. So, but yeah, if you see that seconds hand ticking away perfectly once per second, it's either a quartz watch or it's a $100,000 watch from London. So
right. Manual movement.
Manual movement, right? We're in those mechanical watches, right? You got to wind up the watch manually.
Right.
It will store all that mechanical energy. The watch will run, keep great time. And then after a certain number of hours, whether it's 32 or 48 or 72 or maybe 8 days, if you've got a really great watch, if you don't do anything else, that watch is just going to stop running because all that energy is going to have been exhausted.
Right.
So a manually wound watch needs to be wound every day or every 2 days, part of your normal routine.
Exactly. And finally, an automatic watch.
Automatic watch. So you're doing a mechanical watch again, but this one adds a little rotor inside the watch. It could be the size of the full back. It could be a smaller rotor. That rotor spins around when you move your wrist. Walking, typing, doing anything is going to move that rotor, and that rotor is going to automatically wind the watch for you.
Right.
So you see this as a method of convenience on a lot of watches. You see this on watches that have lots of complications, like a calendar, a perpetual calendar, to help keep it wound so you can reset all that stuff if you forget to wind the watch.
Right.
Yeah.
And in terms of modern watchmaking, maybe another good way to look at this, which doesn't necessarily report on the value to the person owning it, but typically a quartz watch is manufactured so that it can be done less expensively, right?
That's true.
There are some expensive quartz watches out there.
There are.
But generally a quartz watch is usually a less expensive entry point into the watch world because there's not as many moving parts and pieces as a mechanical watch.
That's right. A time-only mechanical watch could have as many as 150 parts.
Right.
A quartz watch doesn't need to have a tiny fraction of that.
Exactly. You might be wondering in this day and age where we can do both automatic and manual wind watches for almost any complication, why you would pick one over the other.
Yeah.
Manual watches are typically done so that the overall presence on the wrist, the thickness of the watch itself can be thinner since there are less parts involved and you don't have a rotor that is moving around taking up real estate inside the watch.
That's true. You add that rotor and in most cases it's an entire other layer to the movement, so you're adding a little bit of thickness.
It's going to be thicker, and typically when you're looking for a high-end dress watch, you want it to be as thin as possible.
That's right. You start seeing some watches that will do smaller rotors to take up a little bit less space, and that's all an attempt to keep the thickness down.
Right, a micro rotor.
A micro rotor.
Great.
They should call it that.
Yes, we should definitely get in touch with somebody.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Next question. All right, so I got one here. How do I set my watch safely? And I think the big concern here is when you have a date window, if you have some other complications, you got a moon phase, the watch stops running. I got a manual wind watch. I forgot to wind it, it stops. Sure. All right, I got an automatic winding watch. I didn't wear it, I didn't put it on my watch winder, it stops. What do I do to safely set this thing?
Right, and I would imagine that this is one of the more frequently asked questions that you guys get. You spend a lot of money on a nice watch and you go online and read about all the different ways that you can potentially damage your very, very expensive and relatively sensitive investment.
Yeah.
And this is one of the easiest mistakes to make, which is the fact that when you have a date window on your watch, it's going to start to turn over at 12 o'clock at midnight, right? But the caveat being that it doesn't usually happen instantaneously. It transpires over the hour, sometimes even from the 9 p.m. all the way up till 12. And if you just start changing the time on your watch and you don't know whether you're changing it during the AM or the PM, you could potentially interrupt that cycle, which can cause wear to the gears, which means a bigger repair bill down the road. But don't worry, we have a fail-safe method, at least my method.
Yeah, what is it? What do you do?
Sure. So the first thing that I do is I set the time to 5 o'clock. Because that is right in the middle. There's no way it's going to be at one or the other. And it also, if you happen to have a watch that has the date position at the 6 o'clock, it's not going to get in the way.
Not blocking the date. 5 a.m., 5 p.m. doesn't matter.
Right.
All
so
right.
Once I set it to 5 o'clock, then I push the crown back into the date setting position. I set my date. I don't have to worry about anything. Pull it back out, set the time. There's absolutely no way you could potentially damage the watch if you do it.
Yeah, next question is one that I think seems really obvious to a lot of people who've been collecting for a while. So obvious that you almost forget that it's a thing you can do when you're starting out, right? And the question is, can I change the strap on my watch? Can I take the bracelet off and put on leather or some other material? How do I do this? And the answer almost always is, yeah. I think that one of the biggest opportunities on a new watch, or a watch you've had a long time that you want to freshen up, change out the strap, right? There are so many beautiful options from the manufacturers themselves, but then also from third-party manufacturers at all price points. You can buy really great straps, different materials, different colors, different textures, for anywhere from like 20 bucks to 600 bucks. And I think that one of the best ways to refresh your watch that you've had for a long time, swap out the strap.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to experiment. And if you can, and you're brave, go buy a bunch of like $20 cheap straps that you maybe aren't sure you're gonna love. Test them out before you spend a lot of money on a strap you might not like.
That being said, you always want to be safe when you're changing the strap or bracelet on your watch.
How do I do this?
Okay, so first off, it is important to spend money on a good watch strap tool.
Yeah.
If you buy a cheap one, it's probably going to be very dull. A watch strap tool will typically have a little forked end that is going to put itself in between the lug and the end of the spring bar. And if you buy a cheap one, they're not as finely finished and you're going to have a lot harder time getting it out, which could potentially cause damage to your watch. The other thing that I like to do, because I have severe obsessive compulsive disorder when it comes to scratches and things like that on my watches, I actually take a little bit of painter's tape.
Yeah.
And I'll tape off the lugs to make sure that if I happen to slip, that I'm not going to do any damage to the actual watch itself.
That's a great idea. Work from the underside of your watch.
Absolutely.
So take the watch off, obviously, hold it upside down, remove the strap from the underside. So if you do have a little bit of slip, you do scratch, you're scratching a part of the watch, it's not visible.
Right.
And then, how can we make this easier for ourselves on the future straps we buy, right? Quick release spring bars.
Sure.
All right, these are amazing. They're the easiest things. They require no tools. There's a little lever here. You just press it and the strap comes right off.
Yeah, and you can change out the spring bars on basically any watch. You don't have to, I mean, keep the stock ones so that if you ever go to sell or trade, you can have those as a part of the sale. But it's easy to pick these up. You can get them on Amazon or just about anywhere.
A few bucks.
Yeah. So talking complications.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a complete calendar, an annual calendar, and a perpetual calendar?
I have no clue. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so we get a watch, right, that's got a whole bunch of info on it. We like complications, so we like maybe seeing the date on a lot of watches. Sometimes we add the day of the week or the month of the year. Sometimes we get really romantic, we add a moon phase.
Right.
A complete calendar is going to have all of these pieces of information, but they're all just going to change over once per day. So every time you get 2 cycles of the hour hand, the watch is going to flip those over. The watch is not going to know how many days are at the end of every month.
Right.
It's not going to know if there's a leap year.
Right.
It's going to advance all those once at a time. So you're going to have to do a few manual adjustments on your watch throughout the year for months that don't end in 31.
Annual calendar.
All right, annual calendar does know how many days are in each month, with one exception. It doesn't know if February is a leap year or not.
And last but not least, perpetual calendar.
Perpetual calendar, certainly not the least expensive. So a perpetual calendar does know when it's a leap year. So
incredible.
a perpetual calendar, once every 4 years, is going to know to include February 29th before skipping over to March 1st. The rest of them, it's going to do 28 days before skipping over to March 1st.
And would you say typically that those are the price points, complete, annual, and perpetual in terms of going up?
They are. So you're going to see a lot more complete calendars or almost nearly complete calendars at reasonable prices relatively speaking.
Got it.
The complexity to set up gearing that knows how many days are in each month to be able to advance multiple things all at once become more complicated and therefore more costly. Perpetual calendars, you can get some beautiful grand complications out of the perpetual calendar as one of its functions. But there are companies that are doing more affordable ones. Jesulecool and IWC have an amazing perpetual calendar complication that keeps the price really low.
For what it is.
For what it is.
Yeah, good point.
So our next question is actually one asking about precious metal. It's asking, is there a gold or a gold formulation that's best for durability and luster?
Yeah, I can certainly imagine if you're just getting into watches, you're thinking that in terms of durability, gold versus stainless steel, gold is typically known as a pretty soft metal.
It is.
A lot of folks don't realize also that the stainless steel that they use on sports watches is much softer than anything they would use for a true industrial application so that it can be polished.
That's right.
But if durability is a concern, first thing that comes to mind for me would be Omega's Moonshine Gold, which is a proprietary alloy that they use on a few of their watches that actually contains palladium, which is a much stronger metal than your typical average 18 or 24 karat yellow gold.
Also adds a little bit more to luster. The other one, hey, I'm a Lange fan, everybody knows this.
Yeah.
A Lange & Söhne's Honey Gold, a proprietary blend, has a much more hay-colored or straw-colored appearance.
It's very unique.
It is. It's gorgeous. And they tout that as being a much, much stronger gold alloy resistant to scratches. But boy, the price goes up for
Absolutely,
it too.
yeah, you're paying for that exclusivity.
Yeah.
But great question.
We did get a question from one of our Instagram followers. If you are following us on Instagram, please do keep in touch. If not, go ahead and follow us, like and subscribe down below for the YouTube channel. Our Instagram follower asked us which we preferred, spicy chicken Popeyes or regular formula Popeyes.
Spicy chicken.
Spicy chicken, thank you.
Spicy chicken.
Right, hello. All right, what do we have for watch questions? The next one, I love these. All right, Jack. How does one define a well-rounded collection?
I think it has to do with confidence and versatility, right? I think if you have a certain level of confidence, if you've kind of developed your personal style, because at the end of the day, watches are jewelry to some extent, right? It's an accessory, and I think you have to take into consideration how you're going to pair that with what you wear in order to maximize the impact that that watch is going to have on how people view you and also how you carry yourself. So that being said, I think that one take, probably the more obvious, would be that a well-rounded collection would be having something that kind of fits into every occasion, right? But kind of like we've done on some of our challenge videos, we're trying to think, okay, we've got the sports watch, we've got the dress watch, we've got the everyday watch.
Yeah.
But that being said, from a maybe a more mental standpoint, I think that a well-rounded collection is really up to you.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable wearing that watch in almost every situation, or maybe breaking the rules, wearing a sports watch with a suit, wearing a small yellow gold watch with jeans and a t-shirt, then that's how you're going to present it, and that constitutes what I think a well-rounded collection is.
If James Bond can wear a dive watch with a tux,
There you go.
you can wear a dress watch to the beach.
Exactly, and I don't think that there's a number involved with the amount of watches that make. You can have a one watch well-rounded collection for sure.
I think that the internet people will argue with you on that because they've argued with me about that. I like the idea of a one watch collection, although I guess if you're defining it as a one watch collection, it's kind of a little bit of an oxymoron.
Well, not necessarily, because like we were just talking about previously, you change the strap, you've got another watch.
You do.
So speaking of which, Chris and I are both of the mindset that if you're going to have more than a few watches, they should all serve relatively different purposes. And we have done a couple different videos, one at $15,000, one at a whopping $50,000, putting together our collections to share with you. So if you want to check those videos out, just click the link up here.
One of the exciting things about meeting new people, collectors, is seeing what they've purchased, seeing what the story is, their journey. And I think that one of the things we try to consider is checking off certain boxes, right? We want that well-rounded collection, but I think you should also not be afraid to just buy what you love in isolation.
Yeah.
If you end up with 3 watches that you bought and they're all blue dials, great. I've had people show me watch collections of 6 black dial watches and they say, should I buy like something not in a black dial? And I say, no, like if you love black dials, like go for it.
Right.
Don't let anybody else tell you what you should or shouldn't have. I like the idea of buying what you love. Maybe a watch in isolation, maybe that watch considered against the other pieces in your collection. But all that matters to me is when I open that drawer, do I see something I want to reach out and put on the wrist that day? I'm only wearing one watch at a time. Pick the ones you love.
Yeah.
If they land together as a collection, great, but they're going to be a collection anyway because they tell your story.
Right. I think that it's really easy in this day and age, certainly with social media being such a big part of our lives, to think more so about how other people are going to view your watches or view your whole collection as a whole. And what you have to remember is 90% of the time, nobody's going to know what you're wearing on your wrist,
No one
right?
cares.
Nobody's going to come across from, everybody loves to tell that story, right? I'm at a restaurant, a guy came across and like checked out my watch. Like that, it's probably not going to happen. So you need to remember that the watch is for you. And if you're the one that actually enjoys it and it puts a smile on your face, that's all that matters.
We could do an entire video on, collecting strategies. We're going to try to bring in some other people. You can also check out a couple of our videos that include me discussing my watch collection, Ty and Jack discussing their collections to get a completely different and more personal insight.
Absolutely. All right, what's next?
Here's a big one. How does the value of my watch change over time? A lot of people who are very investment conscious. Look, you buy a piece of electronics, you walk out the store, it depreciates by 50% instantly. You drive a new car off the lot, shave a couple $1,000 off right away. And people are genuinely concerned, if I'm gonna spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on my watch, what happens if I need to sell it? Is this something I can use as an investment? What should I expect?
Sure. I might take a bit of a controversial stance on this one, which is that, these are luxury items. These are things that we don't need. You can survive without this watch. Your phone does all that and more.
It does.
And that's how I approach my purchases. Of course, you don't want to instantly lose a ton of money or pay overpriced. And we actually have a whole video on buying a used watch, especially if you're buying online, you're not getting to interact directly with the people selling you what you're looking for. But that being said, I think that the minute you start thinking about something kind of as superfluous as a wristwatch as a tangible investment, you kind of take a lot of the joy out of it.
I think so too.
I want to be able to wear my watches. I don't want to have to worry if I get a scratch, how that's going to affect the overall valuation. I totally understand the other side of the coin. You spent a lot of money, you want to know that you're not going to lose money. But I think that the important lesson there is just buy smart when you make that initial investment and don't think about how you're going to get the most money out of it later. Just enjoy the watch.
I think that's true for me too. I buy watches that I love. I've bought and sold a few pieces. Some of them when I sold, I made a little bit of money on them. I felt very good about that. Someone I sold, I lost a little bit of money. I was like, well, you know what? I enjoyed this watch. It was part of my life for 1 or 2 or 3 years. If I sell a watch that I've owned and I get most or all of my money back, I'm feeling really good about myself. I don't need for my watch to be an investment piece. I don't need to say, yeah, but if I buy the white gold version, I might make more money in 10 years. Well, you know what? You could get hit by a bus tomorrow. We've got a question coming up later about watch servicing. If you get hit by a bus, you may need to have your watch serviced.
Right.
No. All right, back to being serious again.
The other thing, like we talk about in the clothing industry a lot, is cost per wear.
Yeah.
Right? So if that watch is something that you might lose a couple $1,000s on, but you wore it for 5 years, you think about how many times you wore it, was it worth that money? And probably 9 times out of 10, it will be.
9 times out of 10, you spend more getting your morning coffee every day than you do on your price per wear for your watch.
Exactly. All right, Chris, next up we have the question, what are some of the most underrated dress watches?
Oh, yeah. I think that some of the best dress watches out there are going to tend to be some of the more subtle ones. I think about watches from Jaeger-LeCoultre. I think about the Master Ultra Thins or the Master Control series.
Sure.
Beautiful, well-made, but very simple watches. They're also pretty versatile if you're going from the stainless steel. I even think within JLC, the Reverso, people say that's a dress watch, but I say that was the original sports watch. So I can wear that anywhere and I can do anything with it.
Yeah.
I love the Omega Aquaterra as a sporty watch that skews a little bit on the dressier side. It's really versatile, offering a ton of colors.
Yeah, so many different options.
And if I'm looking for something more in the high horology section, I really look at Vacheron Constantin. I think about the Patrimony. I think about the beauty, the timeless dial, versatile, simple, clean.
And something other than a Calatrava.
And not a Calatrava.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question we got was asking our opinion of some micro brands. Do we have any favorites?
Yeah, I mean, a couple come to mind that have definitely made their presence known over the last couple of years. Brew, Baltic.
Yep.
What about you?
I love Studio Underdog.
Of course.
I got one. You can check it out in my collection video.
Yeah.
I love what they're doing. I love Anordain, cool Scottish company doing enamel dials.
Analog Shift.
Analog Shift,
Yeah.
all right.
But there's a lot of different options out there, and I think that what you're getting from a micro brand, especially now when a lot of the maybe larger or more popular brands seem further away than ever from being able to ascertain. We have wait lists, we have long relationships that need to be built before maybe we can even get the pieces that we want. There's a certain separation there Whereas with a lot of micro brands, sometimes you're sending a DM on Instagram and you're talking to the person who actually owns the company. I think people, especially right now, given what I was just saying, really enjoy having that experience. You know, you're getting that really personal touch, even though you're not necessarily buying a watch that's $100,000. You're buying something that's probably sub $5,000, and that's really special.
Let us know in the comments below some of your favorite micro brands.
Absolutely.
Always excited to see them. And if you are local to Boston, had somebody brought over a trilobe the other day.
Oh, neat.
Blew my mind.
Yeah.
If you got something cool, come in and show it to us.
Yeah, we love seeing what you have, especially stuff that might not be in our cases.
Yeah.
Great. All right, I think we have one last question.
It's one I've actually thought about a lot.
Oh, okay.
Because I have no life and much free time.
Well, at least you can admit it.
This is, it's the desert island question. You're stranded on a desert island. What's the one watch you take and why?
I do the Breitling emergency so I could get off the damn island.
Oh, you
No, in all honesty, let's say if that one is off the table. And if you don't know
right.
what we're talking about, Breitling actually makes a watch that has like an SOS beacon built into it that you can activate, and they'll send like a helicopter and come pick you up
Yeah, now you win.
when you're at the Met Gala. But that being said, if I had to take one watch on a desert island, I'd be thinking durability.
Yes.
I guess aesthetics wouldn't necessarily be the biggest thing. So yeah, it's gonna be a Rolex.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Probably a Submariner. No date.
All right.
I mean, it fits the location.
It does.
It
yeah.
probably fits what I'm wearing, which is a leaf at that
Right.
point. And water resistant, built
Yeah.
like a tank. Don't
Yeah.
have to worry about a date window or any extra parts breaking down. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the stainless steel. Right. Gonna go with the Rolex Submariner no date.
I think that's a terrible choice.
Great.
Because you are still left, sir, scratching marks in a rock for the passage of time.
I can use the watch.
But you just told me that stainless steel is really soft and Rolex is really fragile.
I didn't say it was fragile.
No, that's true, he didn't.
Okay. Go ahead. What's your pick?
All right, I'm just terrified about the passage of time. I don't want to be scratching hash marks like Tom Hanks. I need perpetual calendar.
Oh wow.
But you
Okay.
didn't see that coming. I need a perpetual calendar for my desert island watch. It needs to be stainless steel.
Is this Fiji? What island is this that you're vacationing to? You have a perpetual calendar on there. Whatever, man.
I need to know how long I've been there. I need stainless steel.
Okay.
I need water resistance because presumably I'm going to have to actually get in the water and go try to find sources of food. All right. So I think Jaeger LeCoultre Polaris perpetual calendar.
Okay, that's not a bad choice.
Right? That wouldn't be terrible.
No, I like it. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed answering your questions, and we hope that we can do this again really soon. If you have any comments, anything that you want to hear from us, go ahead and drop those below. And if you haven't subscribed already, definitely hit that subscribe button, like this video, and of course, visit us on our website at shrevekrumpenlow.com. And if you happen to be in the Boston area, stop by our boutique at 39 Newberry Street here downtown.
Thanks for watching.
We'll catch you on the next one.